got a chance to see the new Milla Jovovich, Dave Bautista movie, Into the Lost Lands. Let's talk about it right now. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with me as we rant about movies, comic books, and television shows, as well as the occasional board game. I am your host, Frank Zanka. I'm an award-winning screenwriter, novelist, and comic book writer, as well as a filmmaker. And yeah, we're going to talk about In the Badlands. It comes from a short story by George R.R. Martin, of course, the writer of Game of Thrones. Or Song of Ice and Fire, depending on how you play it there. Before we jump into it, remember, too, to give me a like, give me a subscribe if you can, and ring that bell, ding, ding. And also remember, too, that I am a screenwriter as well as a novelist and comic book writer, so you can check out some of my novels on Amazon.com. I have my sci-fi quadrilogy called Destiny Aurora, which is also a board game, an RPG, and it is also on Audible. So check that out. And then I have my fantasy novel, which is Tales of Ravenor, the Iron Witch. I am working on a new novel right now. And, of course, my graphic novels are over there as well. And I'm working on a new comic called Fairy Tales of Terror. It's going to be awesome. All right, so let's jump into In the Badlands. I had a choice between seeing this and Mickey 17, and the reviews on Mickey 17 were not very favorable. Everybody's reviews are pretty much the same, that it had some funny stuff to it, and that the acting was generally good, but it was just, wait for it on streaming. That was pretty much everybody that I saw was pretty much had the same thing. So I said, all right, what else is out there? And I scrolled through, and I came up with two movies that I hadn't even heard of. There was no marketing for these things at all. And so they're independent films, which Milla Jovovich and Dave Bautista in an independent film? What? What? By her husband also, W.S. Anderson, who is, of course, the director behind all of the Resident Evil movies that have worked with her forever. And this is also executive produced by her and, of course, Dave Bautista. So it's very, very interesting. And this was a $55 million film, which does not bode well for an independent film of that size without major distribution. It was distributed by Vertical and Constantin, which I can't imagine. These guys are too long in the business to come out with that size of a budget without having major distribution internationally. They must have had some kind of a pre-sale deal on distribution internationally to make this worth it. So if they shot it in a rebate state, of course, they probably, because people, rebate state could be 30 to 35%. By the time you fly people in and whatever else, and you're doing effects somewhere else outside of the state, you're not really getting 30% or 35%. You're getting more like 20 to 25%. So even at a 20% rebate, you're looking at 10% of 55 million is 5 million, so you're knocking 10 million off of it. So you're probably looking at more like 40 to 42 million. Still, you still need to make 100 million. Well, no marketing, no marketing budget. So you're probably only doubling it. You're not really tripling it because there's no marketing budget. I don't know, man. I've never seen such a thing. To have a movie that big, as far as budget's concerned, and with those kind of caliber actors, or action actors, I should say, and have no marketing budget whatsoever. But it still needs to make like $90 million to break even with no marketing budget. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on there, and that's with the rebate. So, I don't know. $40 million to get back is going to be tough. But I don't understand why, Sony or all the other things didn't pick it up. The effects are generally good. I thought some of the effects were better than overall. It was not an awful film. Okay, we're going to go through the bad and the good. So let's talk about what the movie is even about. So the movie is about a post-apocalyptic world. Again, this comes from a short story by George R. R. Martin, the creator of Game of Thrones, and it is a kind of a mix mash of a bunch of different genres. So it's an apocalyptic. First of all, it's an apocalyptic genre. So the world has been destroyed by nuclear weapons or whatever else. So we have almost like this world of Walking Dead where we have, little pockets of, things everywhere. And then we have this wasteland that nobody goes to because it's inhabited basically by monsters, which is like mutated whatever. And I'm not going to give away some of the ending because the ending has a few twists to it, which I really generally liked. But anyway, with that, then we jump into this political side because, of course, with George R. R. Martin, you're gonna jump into, political stuff. So we have a monarchy that's controlling everything, but the monarch is very, very old and is on his deathbed, basically. He basically is, he needs the pens. That's how bad everything is. And his wife is young. And she wants to have an heir, but of course, not with him. So she has another lover kind of thing to give her an heir. So that's what's going on there. And meanwhile, you have a juxtaposition of power with the church. And the church has their own like Knights Templar that exact, retribution and everything like that through violence. So they literally hang people, kill people, shoot people, whatever, if they don't get along with them. Then we have the worker class, which is physically look like slaves in mines and, they're breaking rock kind of thing. I don't know really what they're doing by breaking rock, but that's what they're doing. So we have a worker class that's, being downtrodden. All right, so that's all your pieces. And then you have Milla Jovovich, which is a witch. She's physically a witch. She has powers. And they try very beginning, they're trying to hang her a la Salem, the Salem witch trials kind of thing. So instead of burning her, they're trying to hang her. And then you have Dave Bautista's character that is kind of a wanderer from the Lost Lands. I almost said Badlands. The Lost Lands to, the general area which is controlled. They call it the city is what they call it. But the world building. So let's talk about the good. So the world building is excellent. I really, really like the world building that they created. There's a lot to jump into for this. They don't shy away from giving a lot of depth to the mutant side, if you want to call them that, the monsters. We don't see any other witches like Milla Jovovich, so I wish they had gone into that a little bit further about the lore of witches. Were there any more out there? Is she the only one? What is with all the tattoos over her? We don't get into that. I would have liked to have heard just like a few lines about what her deal is, what her heritage is. But she's almost immortal. And because she even says that she's a lot older than anybody else, and she hasn't aged. And then you have somebody comes to her, and whenever somebody comes to her and asks for her to do something for them, they pay her, and she can't turn anybody down. So whatever they ask, she has to do. Now, of course, there's a twist to that. It's almost like the devil kind of thing. Well, she's going to find an out of something. So it's not going to come out exactly the way you want it to. And somebody asks her to find a shapeshifter. So she's looking for a shapeshifter, and she needs to get the basically steal the shapeshifter's power and give it to the client. and then she has two other clients in the middle of that. So she has these little quests going on that are almost juxtaposed. So overall, I like the plot. I think the plot is good. I wish it was a little bit more. There was a little bit more to it because it's very surface level. I thought that on the bad side, so the special effects are good. The fight scenes are very good. Some of the scenes in general I thought were really good. Especially on the action side. So not on the acting side, because on the bad side, the dialogue is piss poor. The dialogue is bad. But the amount of times that she says, I don't have a choice, we don't have a choice, they don't have a choice, the amount of times that that's said is just like, come on, man, can you come up with a different way of at least saying that? And she and Bautista have absolutely no chemistry whatsoever. I think that I know he came on, which is probably how they raised the money, because, again, he was an executive producer. Normally, when you bring actors on for an executive producer role, it's because you use their name to raise money, which is probably what Anderson did. But wasn't there anybody else that could have done this thing? Dave Bautista is not known for his acting. He's not known for his emotional depth or anything to that effect. In my opinion, he was the weakest part of this. Milla Jovovich, at 50 years old, brought it. She brought it. She looks just as beautiful as ever. She's just as graceful as ever, and probably does a bunch of her own stunts still at 50 years old. I'll watch her in any movie. I don't care. I will go to she was the reason I went to the theater to see this, not because of Dave Bautista. But Dave Bautista, he was the weak link here, because some of the acting came off very flat, very robotic. I think that with what the role really required, you didn't need anybody muscular for it. You could have brought in somebody that was kind of lanky, and it still would have worked, because he's a cowboy. So there's been plenty of cowboy characters that are just, all you need is speed. That's all you need for them, is speed. Everything else is fine. And he has a two-headed snake, which I think is really cool, and stuff like that. They could have gone something a little different with the guns and the weapons. I thought that they could have, kind of given us a little bit more on the creative side of the weapons. But again, I thought I can't really say, there's only a few real sets, because a lot of it is CG, and again, some of the CG is okay, some of it's good. It kind of hampers back and forth. I don't get bogged down by bad CGI. I know some people do. So the CGI is average. Some of it's good, and some of it's not so good. We don't ever see the horses. We see them riding the horses, but we never see the actual horses not being ridden. So, for all I know, none of the horses are real. But again, the ending has some good twists and turns to it. I really liked where they went with that, because she can see the future, so she's kind of had all this stuff mapped out beforehand. And I really like how all that kind of came into position. One of the things that happened at the ending, out of nowhere, there was no setup for it at all, which I really dislike, when the script doesn't give you a hint to it. It just kind of pops you in there. It makes it feel cheap. But yeah, so my big problems were set up the ending, because part of it was not set up at all. Dave Bautista in general, I thought he was miscast, and I'm not going to get bogged down with the effects, so that's never going to be one of my, unless they're just god awful. But they weren't these were god awful. And the other thing was, the dialogue. Some of the dialogue was just very, very poor. But yeah, overall, I know everybody's kind of giving it a 50%. That's what's on Rotten Tomatoes. The critics, of course, hated it completely, like 18%, but the general audience is 50%, and I can see that. It's going to be a half and half, kind of very divisive movie. Some people are going to think it's stupid as hell, but I went in there just wanting an apocalyptic action movie, and that's exactly what I got. So I wasn't disappointed with it. It's only an hour and 40 minutes long, so I wasn't bored through any of it. There was a little piece that kind of dragged a little bit, but nothing major. It does keep moving, and right when it starts to get, slow, we get an action scene, so it picks it back up. But yeah, and if there was any kind of camaraderie or chemistry between Bautista and Milla Jovovich, it would have been a lot better film. And I think that really hurt it. They tried to do, he's holding her and he's, hey, let's do this together. And it's just, the romance stuff just didn't work. It just didn't work at all. So and I think that was very, very detrimental to the film. So I'm going to give this, it's better than average. I liked it better than Captain America for a fraction of the budget. We'll see what it does. But I'm going to give it like a 6 out of 10, maybe a 6.5. I'll probably watch it again if it comes on streaming. Because I'll watch anything that Milla Jovovich is in. I think she's very fun to watch. And again, at 50 years old, she's still got it, man. All right, well, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Remember to give me that like, give me that thumbs up if you can. If you can, subscribe, ring that bell, ding, ding. Please share it, too, because I don't think anybody's heard of this film. I'd like a few people to go out and watch it, because, again, I'll, especially knowing this is not distributed by any major distributors, so let's support independent film, and especially if you like action movies, you like sci-fi action movies, apocalyptic action movies, things to that effect, or you're just a fan of Milla Jovovich. And if you're a fan of Dave Bautista, he's definitely got some action scenes in here. All right, and remember, too, to go to Amazon.com if you want to check out anything that I've written. I'll see you guys on next episode. Thanks for watching. That's my Porky Pig there. All right, have a good one. All right, bye-bye.